What's up and welcome back. I'm John Stark from MacTheMovieGuy.com, your favorite blind film critic, and today I'm doing another top 10 list because that's what we do here on the internet. We break things down into groups of 10. Uh, as film critics also. Everything's 10 and or more. It's actually really going to be, because they're honorable mentions. But I'd like it if you could click that like and subscribe button. That'd be amazing. But these are my top 10 documentaries of 2024. I saw a shit ton of documentaries this year. I got screeners for documentaries, just oodles of documentaries. Everybody's making documentaries. And there's so many documentaries that I liked that didn't even make my honorable mentions list, which is one of the reasons why I decided to make a documentary list. Plus, also just the way that I am in general in terms of how I see documentaries versus films. It's often hard for me to figure out where I put documentaries on a list against narrative features because I rarely ever watch a documentary more than once. Like two is like, oh my God, I saw it twice. Um, but I don't usually rewatch documentaries a lot, whereas films, I can see them like 20 times. So for me, there's that value of like, oh, I could see this again. And there are also a lot of documentaries that are like really, that was hard. And I can't see myself ever wanting to watch that again, but what an experience. So like some of these could be in the top if I could figure out how to navigate that. But when I do my top movies of the year, there aren't going to be documentaries on it. It's just hard for me to figure out which one goes above where because I'm not really excited about seeing these movies again, even though I think some of these are tremendous. Also, I'm a blind film critic. You know what I use? Audio description. You know what's not in my top 10? Movies without audio description. Haha! This is where audio description matters. So, for all you films who thought you could skate away without giving me accessibility, oh, you're in the honorable mentions, and I'll mention a couple of them. There's one film that's in my honorable mention that I'm aware actually has an audio description track that was made for it, but Disney's not using it. So it's in the honorable mentions. It's one of those things where it could change later on down the road, and Disney could be like, oh, wait, oh, shit, we actually have an audio description track for that? They're really bad about this kind of thing. Like, it takes them forever. Hulu will drop a movie and then, like, later on, the audio description will follow it. Like, they in some ways great at audio description accessibility. In other ways, whoever's doing it is drunk all the time. Just drunk. Just constant hangover. So Sugarcane's been on their platform for a while, and they have not used the audio description track that exists for that movie. So, anyway, list of honorable mentions. These are the films, and I'll go through and I'll let you know whether or not, because I took my entire top, and my top 10 were formulated from the highest ranked on my list that had audio description. So some of the higher ones on this honorable mentions list could have been in the top 10 had they had audio description. But there are also films that made my honorable mentions list as a result that also have audio description, but we're just sort of in the mix, if that makes any sense. So let's begin on the honorable mentions list. And so it begins. Did not have audio description. This is a documentary about Philippine politics. I would definitely recommend. I liked it. I hope it would gain audio description just because not all of it's in English. But The Extraordinary Life of Ibelin. I like this. I've actually had an opportunity to vote for it in a couple places because it also qualifies as an international feature. So it's one that has audio description. So it's, while it hasn't really made any documentary lists for me, it's made international feature lists because it's international and has audio description. So, yay! I don't think it actually got nominated anywhere as an international, but you know, that's life. It's the Warcraft doc, by the way. Next up is Elton John, Never Too Late. I like that. It does have audio description. Moving up. Black Barbie. So Netflix does have audio description. It's about the creation, like how having a black Barbie doll has affected and transformed and empowered people over the years. Next up is Jim Henson, Idea Man, which does have audio description on Disney Plus. You can check that out. Thought that was a nice documentary, especially if you're a big Jim Henson fan. Next up is For Love and Life, No Ordinary Fight, which is a disability doc. It's available on Amazon. I would definitely recommend this. I thought it was very strong. It's about ALS and really well made documentary that presents. This is one of the things I liked better than Blink, is because it presents you with the problems of that somebody with a specific disability would have and face, and the solutions that we could reach, like the things that you could do to make it better, instead of just making it feel like kids are walking towards death. They actually sort of showed you, this is what we need. It's showing you this is my life and this is how I can make it better, instead of just, wow, bucket list for kids. I hated Blink. It's not on this list. Moving up the list. Endurance. This also has audio description. Sort of an interesting documentary about Shackleton and his exploration. I thought that was good. So, moving up the list. The Only Girl in the Orchestra, the only doc short on my list, is on Netflix. I really enjoyed this. Just who she is and John Wayne's daughter. I thought her life story was really interesting. It was like 40 minutes, and I was like, man, you could have done a feature on her. I thought she was great. But also, leaving the audience wanting more is always a good thing. So I hope it wins Doc Short. We'll see. It's on the short list for the Oscars. But it's my favorite documentary short of the year, so it made I'm not going to do a list of documentary shorts. But it does have audio description on Netflix. America's Burning. I was given this without audio description, so I have no idea if it has it. So it's on the honorable mentions. Sabbath Queen. Actually, haven't even dropped my review of this yet, but it's on my honorable mentions list. And it does not have audio description that I know of. The World According to Ali Willis. Another no audio description film. Really liked this. It's on honorable mentions. No accessibility. Zorowski v. Texas. This one was so hard for me. This is where we're getting into the could have been in the top 10. This one got me angry. This one was the side, but no audio description. So Zorowski v. Texas does not make the top 10. I'm shocked it didn't make the documentary the short list of the Oscars. I don't know what you're doing over there, because I've seen some of the other ones that did, and I disagree. So there's spots. There's a spot. There's at least a couple spots on that list for that. Next up is Separated, which I saw without audio description. Another documentary that will enrage you. Next up we got No Other Land, which definitely stood a chance. I don't think they'll ever put audio description on this, but I should say has a possibility that it could have been the best documentary of 2024 if I had been given audio description for it. I know what it is. The fact that I put it this high on my honorable mentions list is a gift, because there's barely any English in it. But I am acknowledging it because I think it has the opportunity to be incredibly powerful, but it needs to be like 20 Days of Mariupol, where it has audio description. Otherwise, it will only affect certain people. Moving up the list. My final honorable mention is the aforementioned Sugarcane, which has an audio description track that Disney just is refusing to use. Moving up the list to my top 10. 10 films that have audio description. These are the top 10 documentaries of the year. Coming at number 10 is Super/Man, the Christopher Reeve story. I didn't see this with audio description. However, it's on Max currently with audio description. I just don't love rewatching documentaries. And I wasn't asked to. There's another documentary on here that I did rewatch because I was given a version of it originally. We'll get to that, and then I was given accessibility for it. But yeah, the team at Super Slash Man did not reach out to me individually and say, "Hey, we're sorry we didn't give you accessibility the first time." It just kind of wound up on Max, so I was able to see that it has audio description, which is why it's number 10. I thought again, this is another disability doc, which it presented sort of like, yes, there's a disability here. Yes, um, there's bleakness within the disability, but here's what we could do to make it better. And I think that's what every disability doc needs to do, is what Blink did not do. Everything, there's gonna be one more mention of that. There's one more. I got one more disability doc on here. So I'm gonna keep ragging on Blink until it goes away. Moving up the list to number 9. Also really love the stuff with Robin Williams. Like that, I'm a big Robin Williams fan, and to know that he came in and did all that stuff for Christopher Reeve just warmed my heart. Like I love hearing how great of a person Robin was. So, number 9 is Martha on Netflix. I actually really enjoyed this. I thought, considering that she's controlling the narrative, I thought she was willing to talk about a lot. And I thought the filmmaker held her accountable for the few times where it looked like she was dodging something, and the audio description actually captured it. So this is one where it actually has really good audio description. There are a couple times where Martha looks uncomfortable, and the audio description actually captures it, which leads me to believe that the filmmaker could see that and left that in there and was willing to let those moments where a question obviously left Martha feeling like, I don't want to answer that. Oh God, if they know what the answer to that question is. But it's amazing what she's willing to talk about on camera. So this one kind of surprised me. I thought it was just going to be another sort of like content creation documentary where it's just like, yep, it's another famous person and we're going to talk about him for a while. But no. And to be fair, Elton John talks about a lot of stuff too I didn't expect him to talk about. So some very revealing docs this year. Number 8. Will and Harper. A very fun documentary that is very timely and should be talked about more. I kind of wish it focused a little bit more on Harper and less on Will, which was more like Harper and Will. But I know that they're using Will's star power to get people to watch a documentary about being trans in America. And I accept that. It took me a minute when I first watched the movie. I was like, I don't know. And the more that I've sat with it, I'm like, you know what? If Will Ferrell has to show up in a documentary and get people to talk about this kind of stuff in a positive way and see somebody as, as they're supposed to see them, as like a fucking human being, we're sitting here on the precipice of people trying to pass legislation of an anti-transgender athlete bill when there are like 43 trans athletes in the country. People just keep acting like it's this huge problem. But if you actually go to the NCAA, you can research like how many people identify as transgender and how many of them how many there are. And it's like it's a really shockingly low number. But we made that priority legislation. You know what I'm saying? But we can't stop like mass shootings. We cannot figure that out. But my God, we can stop the 43 trans athletes from playing sports. Anyway, moving up the list. So yeah, Will and Harper makes the list because we need solid representation in this area because people are stupid. Number 7. Daughters. I liked the documentary. I liked it. It sat with me. I sort of it's a little bit lower on my list than I think people would have expected, especially considering I cut out everything that didn't have audio description. I noticed that they dodged a lot of like, what did these people do? And it makes me a little uncomfortable. Like I'm happy because it's still here. You know what I'm saying? But it's like not my number 1 documentary of the year. It's got the heartstrings pulled because you got the little kids. and they didn't do anything wrong. These dads have kids, and the kids didn't do anything. They're these little kids, and their dads are being sent to prison for like long period of time, you know. And there's this program that teaches them to be better fathers, and we get to see that some of them are released from jail, and they go on to have like better parenting skills because they this program keeps them sort of connected to their kids as long as they possibly can. We also have no idea what any of them did, and I just wish I had some like sort of assurances, you know what I'm saying, like with certain things, because it's really hard to root for. um but I think mommy would keep daughters away from daddy's a cannibal. We should go have a dance with him. You know what I'm saying? Like there are just some things that make me uncomfortable, but I also want to make sure that, you know, I don't think they would put people in this program who were there for crimes against children, but because of sort of like that ambiguity in not knowing, maybe that was an audio description. Maybe they put it on screen for sighted people. We just didn't know for everybody who's blind. I don't know, but it's number 7. I think it's a strong doc, and I think it put a light on something that was worth putting a light on. Number 6, music by John Williams. If you love movies, you'll love this. This is all that is. This is it's impossible for cinephiles to hate this documentary. You can think that you didn't get enough, and that this should have been like a docu-series, and then you just want more John Williams. That's fine, but you can't not like this. It's impossible, because just getting to talk about how John Williams conceives his music and learning a little bit more about him as a person and him as a father, and how he tragically lost his wife really early. He had to take a break for a little while because he suddenly was a single dad with a bunch of kids. All that, and then the scores and hearing the music again and getting to touch on all these directors to keep coming in and talking about him. Everybody showed up for this. You know, nobody turned this down. Everybody wanted to be a part of music by John Williams because he is the GOAT. And I love this documentary. So moving up the list, number 5. An American Bombing, The Road to April 19th. This was on HBO. It's a documentary about how we got to the Oklahoma City bombing, and how that whole thing unfolded, and looking at domestic terrorism in America, and how still today there are domestic terrorist cells in America. And I think, considering some of those people participated in January 6th, it's like an important, I said some, I didn't say everybody there was a domestic terrorist. Calm down. Sit down, Karen. There were some. Anyway, but considering it's still there, it's an important look back at a time when domestic terrorism hit hard, and I thought this was a really strong doc coming out of HBO. Moving up the list, number 4 is The Body Politic. This documentary I was talking about. I already liked this documentary going into it. It was a strong doc for me. It's about the mayor of Baltimore, and his attempts to sort of decrease crime within the city. He starts out as a city councilman, and then we get to see him sort of like running for mayor and getting elected and putting in these policies, safe streets, and he does actually sort of, like, crime goes down. He has these parties, you know, to keep things safe. He sort of controversially uses ex-cons because those people can talk to the current cons, you know, on the street, and say, listen, man, I was there. Like, I ran on these gangs, and I know this is what your life is going to look like. This is what prison, you know, like, they can actually have those tough talks. It's, whereas somebody who hasn't lived that life, who hasn't lived that struggle, he relocates people. This guy's doing the work. Body Politic, the director reached out to me when I was not given accessibility and gave me a copy of the film with audio description. You can watch this through the PBS app. I did not know that it was also that PBS had aired this. So if you're looking for this with audio description, it's on PBS. Through however you access it, like app-wise or through the website or whatever. But The Body Politic, I would recommend it. You probably haven't heard about it. I don't think a lot of people have talked about it, but I think it is a very strong doc. And seeing him trying to get with, Larry Hogan, who was governor at the time of Maryland, and he's like, well, I can't get the governor to meet with me. I'm like, Baltimore is Maryland. Like, it's not that big of a state. There's one giant fucking city. You need to meet with him. Like, this is not like one of those cities. This is not a state where there are like multiple major cities, and it's like Gavin Newsom has to be like, God, I can't meet with the mayor of LA and San Francisco, San Diego. I mean, like, he's got Oakland, Sacramento. Like, he's got a bunch of major cities to hop around and constantly talk to all these mayors. What is Larry Hogan doing? Like, if you can't pay attention to Baltimore, quit your job. It basically, if Baltimore was not in Maryland, Maryland would be like North Dakota. Like, it would just be, where did the population go? I don't know. Anyway, uh, so moving up the list. My number 3 documentary of the year is Patrice, the movie. This was on Hulu. I actually got to effect real change here with Patrice because I pointed out the fact that it had a corrupted audio description file, which then got back to the filmmakers, and they were able to contact Hulu to get a corrected version of the audio description track up there. And it was repeating itself. Like, it had parts where it would go back through, like, you would hear like the man walks in through the door, the man walks in through the door, and then down the hallway. Like, it would just constantly like say like something and then like finish the rest of the sentence. But this is a disability doc. It's about a couple that is on. They're both disabled. They're both on disability. They both really need the disability, and they can't get married because if they get married, they would lose their disability, even though they're both disabled and they both need the disability income to survive. Should they get married, they would lose it. So it's about changing legislation that wouldn't punish them for getting married, which is really weird. It's a really weird punishment to say you're on disability, and even if you marry somebody else who's low income and also on disability, like, disabled people can't even marry each other. Like, what the fuck? Like, their income is coming from disability. So I guess like joint disability income would somehow then disqualifying them from being able to. Anyway, it's stupid. But I like Patrice, and it's on Hulu, and I think you should check it out. Moving up the list. Cap the Cap Truth Cap DS Cap Alex Cap Jones. Oh, maybe that was number 4. Never mind, because this is number 3. The Truth versus Alex Jones. Somewhere along the way, I stopped counting. I lost the ability to count. Maybe there's top 11. I don't know. The Truth versus Alex Jones. I love this. I hate this dude. And watching an entire documentary about people who also, like, watching his life be a constant struggle. Yeah, he deserves it. This is he's such a douchebag. This is nothing made me happier, I think, than watching this documentary and being like, yes, get this guy, and he's such a dick too in court. Like, his brashness. What a guy. And then he tries to go on and like cry and be like, "Oh, they're taking away all my property." Well, fuck you, man. I really hope. I know the Onion was trying to buy his stuff. I hope that goes through. I hope Infowars ends up being owned by the Onion. Anyway, and we never get to hear from this guy ever again. Go away, sir. Moving up the list. Cap we cap, we'll cap dance cap again. My number 2 documentary, honestly, my number 2 and my number 1 can be tied. So even this was the top 11, these two are so close. My number 2 is We Will Dance Again, which is stunning. It was an experience. It uses real footage from the terrorist attack on the concert in Israel that sort of started the whole conflict between Israel and Hamas, and unfairly the Palestinian people as a result. And it shows Hamas going into this festival and sort of just I mean, there's real footage because it talks to the people who were at the concert. They had cell phone cameras and stuff like that. And it has real footage of people dying and people getting shot. It's like a real exploration of this event, and they were calling for help. See, the thing is that this is not. It seems like it would be a documentary. So because I know we have this population who are, pro Palestine and trying to stand up for them. This is not an anti Palestine documentary. It's anti Hamas, but it's also anti Israel in many ways because it blames Israel's slow response time. They're calling and calling and calling and calling and calling and not getting responses. And the slow response time is what leads to the higher body count in this. And the people, there are survivors of the documentary who make that very clear. They're like, we call for help, it didn't come. So it's a bold documentary to take that stance. I wish more people were talking about this. I don't know why it's just on Paramount Plus and like everybody's just flying under the radar. I don't even think it's Oscar eligible. So it's a harrowing experience and one I will never forget. So my number one documentary is Lightning in a Bottle, and it is the Commandant's Shadow, which is on HBO. I wasn't ready for this, and what it was, and just a really moving experience. It's a World War II documentary, but it takes the granddaughter, the grandson. No, wait, yeah, it's the son and the grandson of uh, uh, Rudolf Hess, who was the sort of the architect of Auschwitz, the commandant of Auschwitz, who really built the most effective death camp. He's whose family is featured in Zone of Interest, in case you're wondering. I suppose also loosely in Boy in the Striped Pajamas, if you really want to get into it, but really Zone of Interest. Um, and the old man here is the son who, he was young at the time, and he talks about how he had like no idea. Like for him, his life was just completely different, and he just lived this life, and he thought his dad just like kind of went off to work and did things, and it wasn't until later that he learned, and he's been dealing with sort of that and the generational um, the guilt that's been passed down to him, even though he didn't do anything. He was like 6. So, and his feeling that he needs to make up for whatever. And he travels back to Auschwitz, even though he hasn't been there since. He talks a little bit about what happened to him and his family, like him, his sister, and his mom afterwards. His mom was a little bit more of a Nazi and a little bit harder to, you can't be like, well, she knew what was going on. There's a really sort of tough exchange between him and his sister that you get in the film because his sister is a little bit more like, I love my dad than he is. He's a little bit more like, I have this really weird connection now because like I remember him in the house, but it's like it's impossible to not think of everything that he did, you know. And then they pair him with, on the other side, there's a woman who's the daughter of a survivor of Auschwitz. And she's sort of trying to explore her past, and her mom has never really opened up about the experience at Auschwitz. So we watch her journey, and she's entitled to, I guess, German citizenship or whatever. So she applies for it, and she goes over there, and they end up connecting the two of them together. And it's interesting how these families intertwine. They show up at Auschwitz together for the first time and just experience this. And it's really just a great, uh, when you see somebody and you're like, oh, that person's still alive, we have to make this documentary now. It's like you find out that the son of the commandant of Auschwitz is still alive, and obviously he's way up there in age. So you have a very short period of time to be able to do this and to find out and to go on this journey. And the fact that we did go on this journey, I think, is incredibly powerful. I wish more people were talking about the Commandant Shadow. Would it have been number one had Sugar Cane or No Other Land? I don't know. I don't know. I think both of those documentaries have potential to be number one. But certainly Commandant Shadow and We Will Dance Again are very solid tops of my list in terms of documentary really reaching through, opening up your soul and showing you something maybe that you didn't know before. That's my list. Thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing. And I'll see you guys on the other side.